tell Dr. Price stop talking, so we figured that was our cue. How's everybody doing today? All right, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for coming out. By the way, my name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I am part of the Your Black World Coalition. And we reached out to put together this event as kind of a clarion call to everybody in our community who still gives a damn. Basically, we reached out to Medgar Evers. It's such an amazing institution, and they were gracious enough to allow us to gather to talk about us. And I'd be remiss not to say, to give a sincere thanks to Dr. Byron Price, who opened that door, who made those connections. Without Dr. Price, this would not be happening, as well as the president and other individuals with the university who allowed us to come into this place, and the students who helped us as well. Now, why are we here? I can't tell you exactly why each of you decided to come out. We all came for our own reasons, but I can give you an idea of the nature of the thinking that led to the creation of the event. This event was really created in the spirit of the runaway slave. And, you know, most of us, when we think about slavery, we like to glamorize. We like to believe that if we were slaves 300 years ago, we'd be that runaway slave. We wouldn't tolerate that kind of abuse, right? We like to glamorize and believe that would be the case, but most of us are probably lying. Most of us would have went right along with the program. Because if you think about it, I mean, nobody really wanted to be the runaway slave. You know, the runaway slave didn't have any friends on the plantation. The runaway slave was the crazy one. That was the unrealistic one. That was the one that was going to get everybody else in trouble. And also, we can't glamorize what happened when most slaves tried to run away. A lot of them got caught. That first runaway slave, when he ran off the plantation and got caught and got brought back to the plantation, and he's bloody, and they beat him and to the end of his life, he always had the haters standing there saying, "I told you so." Right? I told that Negro, if he kept on talking crazy about trying to be free, this was going to happen. But we also understand that the runaway slave was the greatest visionary on the plantation. They had this seemingly unrealistic idea that somehow all men and women are created equal and that all of us deserve to be free. The runaway slave had the ability to give to something greater than himself, because that first runaway slave who did get caught, who was punished, that person planted a seed of inspiration that the next slave took with him or her that led them to try to find their way to freedom. So, if you really think about it, you can't have the first black president without the first runaway slave. But we have to understand that, to some extent, the task that lies in front of us is a depressing one. We're not here to do things for ourselves. We're here for our children and our grandchildren. And our grandchildren's grandchildren. We're here to fight for things that we cannot yet see. Because I hate to break it to you, but there's never going to be a day in your lifetime or mine where we wake up and the sun is shining in the black community and everything's just wonderful. We will not open the newspaper and not hear about a baby being shot, or somebody getting a 150-year prison sentence, or something terrible happening to our community. We know that that's going to always be the case for many of us for a very long time. But just like that runaway slave, I encourage you to rely on your faith to understand that sometimes you plant seeds and you make investments in things that you won't see in your lifetime. And you have to be committed to them. Because look at where we are as a community. I mean, right now, we incarcerate more black men in America than South Africa did during the height of apartheid. And if apartheid is considered to be the most racist regime in the history of the world, and we incarcerate more black men than they did during apartheid, then what does that say about America? If you look around, you will see, for example, today in the newspaper, I read that there's a study that says that African Americans are worse off economically than any other ethnic group in America. There are communities where a black man has an easier time getting a gun than he has of getting an education. Black unemployment right now is 30% higher than it was during the March on Washington in 1963. And so part of this gathering the goal of this gathering is really to realize that if we approach old problems with the same old solutions, we're going to get the same old results. So the idea of a new paradigm is to say that we need a new paradigm of thought. We need 21st century solutions to solve 21st century problems. If we do not adjust our thinking and adjust our actions and make that spiritual journey to dig deeper and to find out who we are, then we're going to end up in a perpetual purgatory. We're going to be like rats in a cage who are running on a wheel, and the wheel's going to spin and spin and spin, and we're not going to get anywhere. Now, my background, I'm a finance professor. I don't know why I chose to study money and finance. I guess I studied money because I didn't have any money growing up. So I figured that if I studied money and learned about money, somebody would pay me money to talk about money. And so I know capitalism pretty well. We live in a capitalist society. I know capitalism better than a man knows his ex-wife. And one thing I know also about this country is that when you run away from educational empowerment, when you run away from financial responsibility, you are running right toward slavery. That is just a fundamental fact. When you are living deep in debt, you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have your own business, you don't have multiple streams of income, you don't have your money right, then to some extent you end up feeling like a slave every day. There's no group angry in America right now than the black middle class. The people who have all the PhDs and JDs and MDs and all these other degrees that make you feel like you're better than somebody else. But yet you go to work and you wonder, why do I hate my life? Well, for many of us, we are enslaved by capitalism. Every time a situation calls for us to stand up, there's somebody standing right over top of us telling us, sit your black butt right back down. And that's exactly what you do. Because there's no greater amount of control that I can have over another man than for that man to know that I'm the reason his kids get to eat every day. So to some extent, you can think about just the sheer hilarity of relying on the descendants of your historical oppressors to get the things that you need. It doesn't make any sense. When you're addicted to a commodity that you do not control, you're giving away all your power. In the relationship between a pusher and an addict, the addict never has any power. So we have to think about that. So there's 3 quick concepts I'm going to share with you that I hope will help in your thinking as it pertains to achieving your individual empowerment as well as our collective empowerment. The first thing is this. We have to pay the cost for our freedom. Cost. C-O-S-T. The acronym means something. C stands for contribute. Everyone should make it a point to contribute to some black institution outside of your church. Because if we don't build our institutions, nobody else will. Number 2, own. Own something. You have to own something. And don't go out, you don't want to be like Jay-Z at the Barclays Center where you own 1/15 of 1%. I'm talking about really owning something. Own the land on which you stand. That is how you have power in America. Number 3, S. Save. Save and invest. We must embrace the idea of saving and investing. Unfortunately, too many of our kids get their brains poisoned by what they hear from their favorite rapper that tells you that if you get money, you're supposed to go to the club and make it rain, shawty, and throw it in the air and go buy a pair of Air Yeezys and all this other stupid stuff. No, that's not going to empower you. You know that saving and investing must become a fundamental part of who we are. Number 4, T, target. That means your money is your power. So when you spend your money, you must target your money. You target that money to black-owned institutions or institutions that have values for the people that you care about. The second concept I want to leave you with is the idea that every black child in America should be homeschooled, even if they go to school somewhere else. That means that even if they go to their public school down the street, you've got time for what we can call extracurricular activities or extrication. Look at the word extra. Extra means in addition to. It means to extricate yourself from something, because the only thing worse than being uneducated is to be severely miseducated. So when you have that extra time, after school, weekends, summertime, That's when your child should be learning the basics of Black history. That's when you have a list of all the things that every African American should know so they can have a sense of pride and dignity about their history, where they come from. That goes beyond believing that everything great done in the world was done by a white man. That's also the time where you might teach them things they need in order to be a successful person in this world. Maybe that's where you teach them how to buy a home, how to be a good husband and father. All those things you're not going to learn in school. The third thing I want to leave you with is this. Every Black child in America should be taught the basics of entrepreneurship, how to own their own business. Even if you work for somebody else, everybody should learn how to grow their own money the same way you learn how to grow your own food. Because even if you have a job and you should never, number one, get all your money from one source. Because if you do that, then you're pretty much vulnerable to that source. And we can't depend on corporate America to give us the things we need. Find a way to have a business on the side. Find ways to have multiple streams of income. Entrepreneurship must be a part of who we are. Because that is the root of Black unemployment. If they're looking to hire new employees, who are they going to hire first? People they know or us? So understand that really when you talk about how we can succeed and how we can thrive in this society, I think we have to remember this fundamental principle that comes from physics. And the principle is simple. It's force equals mass times acceleration. That means that if I want to have a lot of force, then I need two things, a lot of mass, and I need that mass to accelerate. If I want to move this podium, I use my force, and I accelerate, I push, and I make the podium move. Well, what is mass? Mass is all the stuff that we have that makes us feel like we're powerful, right? It might be your education, it might be your status, it might be your money, it might be all these things that you have that make you feel validated and make you feel successful. Well, that's great. Congratulations. I'm glad you got it. But understand that mass means nothing if you're afraid to accelerate. So if you are a powerful person and you are this educated person, you have all this ability to do all these things, and you're doing nothing with that, then guess what? You will live and you will die. The world will not care that you were ever here. Because you will have left no impact on the world. Mass means nothing if you're afraid to accelerate. And as Dr. Wilmer Leon says also, that when you talk about Black leadership doesn't start with Jesse and Al and people you see on TV or even people you see on this panel. Black leadership starts in your living room. So all of us are Black leaders. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce somebody that I consider to be the most talented and most brilliant political scientist in the country. When Dr. Ron Walters died, he was the person that I started turning to for political advice and information on issues of importance in our community. Dr. Wilmer Leon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. As I thought about how I would kick this off, I decided to open this discussion the same way that I open my classes each semester at Howard, and that is with a story. It's a story about a guy. Well, let me ask you, any history majors out here? Any historians? Anybody ever heard of a guy named Ephraim Thaddeus Millage DeVore? You have? Okay. Well, I'm glad one person had. He was born in 1880 on the DeVore plantation in Greenwood County, South Carolina. That's 15 years after the 13th Amendment was ratified. When he was 18 years old, a riot broke out in a small town called Phoenix, South Carolina, which is in Greenwood County. It's what has now become historically known as the Phoenix Riots. Some of the African-American residents were trying to vote in a local election. And a lot of the white residents, they didn't really take too kindly at that